as our ratings here at Newsmax have exploded, at least one of our competitors, and probably more, would love to cancel us right out of existence. CNN, the network that sold 30 years of broadcast credibility to destroy the Trump presidency, is outraged by Newsmax. Our Sin, interviewing members of the Trump legal team after the election and hearing their allegations of election fraud, while the mainstream media demanded that we all accept the Democrat consensus that it was the most fair election in the history of the universe. That's it. And whether the left likes it or not, we do have to say this election was not even remotely fair to incumbent President Donald Trump. Democrats changed some rules for voting with COVID as an excuse. Zuckerberg gave us the ballot drop boxes almost exclusively in liberal areas. And the media and tech companies conspired with the Democrats to heavily promote and protect Joe Biden while continuing their 4 straight years of assaulting and trashing Donald Trump in every possible way. We all know it's true. Even liberals openly admit that Biden got a total pass in this election, almost no scrutiny at all. But CNN, which is clearly moving from left-leaning to radical left authoritarian, now says we must not be allowed to exist any longer. Here's a clip from Brian Stelter's show over the weekend.
And then we're going to have to figure out the OANN and Newsmax problem. You know, that these companies have freedom of speech, but I'm not sure we need Verizon, AT&T, Comcast, and such to be bringing them into tens of millions of homes. This is, allowing people to seek out information if they really want to, but not pushing it into their faces, I think is where we're going to have to go here.
Okay, the one doing the talking there is Alex Stamos. He used to have a big security job at Facebook. Our bookers asked him to come on tonight so I could pick him apart. He never responded. Since last week, Stelter and his left-wing coworker Oliver Darcy, a former writer for conservative outlet The Blaze, by the way, whose opinions seem to change based on where his paycheck is coming from, have been hounding major cable providers to shut us down. They do it by just pretending that they're simply asking questions, of course. Here's an example, a tweet from Oliver Darcy. Just a reminder that neither Verizon, AT&T, nor Comcast have answered any questions about why they beam channels like OAN and Newsmax into millions of homes. Do they have any second thoughts about distributing these channels, given their election denialism content? They won't say. Thanks, Oliver. Not a shocker coming from CNN, though. Shameless in their desires for censorship. They hate the right. They'd love to see us all just disappear. They hate the freedom of speech, clearly, as well. They want liberal ideals to rule this country without any fear of dissent. Sounds amazing, doesn't it? To always get your way. Perhaps they'd be more comfortable headquartered in China. It's a nice fit. Former Bush Press Secretary Ari Fleischer, one of many to jump to Newsmax's defense after all of this, quote, "You knew it would happen. Someone to take conservative media off the air because they bought into Trump's election theories. On those grounds, shouldn't CNN, ABC, CBS, and NBC be taken off the air because they bought into Russian collusion theories? This censorship must stop." A voice of reason. Of course, Fleischer makes a great point here. Let's check out just some of the more salacious moments. This is what Americans were fed for years by most of the mainstream media. Let's go ahead and start with our good friends over at CNN.
The core question about Paul Manafort is whether he was working for Donald Trump and the American people, or whether he was really working for Vladimir Putin.
Gonna miss the tubes. Should CNN be deplatformed for this? It could be the end for them if they choose to play by Brian Stelter's rules. Here's just another ridiculous moment. This one from Keith Olbermann of ESPN and MSNBC fame. He was once a fantastic, very funny sports anchor, and then politics ruined his entire life and most of his personality.
We are no longer a democracy. We are no longer a free people. We are the victims of a bloodless coup. So far, a bloodless coup engineered by Russia with, at best, the traitorous indifference of the Republican Party and Donald John Trump, a man who, to borrow a phrase from another December long ago, will live in infamy.
It's on GQ. I guess I got to go, too. Let's go very mainstream for just a moment. ABC's The View. Joy Behar. Now, nobody takes this woman seriously, but her show gets a lot of attention and replay on other shows because, frankly, there's nothing else on TV at 11 a.m. when most of us are at work.
Do we have to wait till the hammer and sickle is on the American flag?
The hammer and sickle on the American flag. It's a short bite, but she's talking about how When are we going to stop Donald Trump from colluding and stealing this election and destroying the country? Are we going to wait till the hammer and sickle is on the American flag? That was on ABC. That is a ridiculous assault on the President of the United States, completely baseless as we know now. I hope you guys don't like watching The Bachelor, because we're going to have to cancel ABC too now. So we're going to cancel a lot of channels here. How about Joy Reid and MSNBC?
Are you concerned about Donald Trump's loyalties to, the U.S. versus whatever strange loyalty he seems to have to Mr. Putin?
Had Fang Fang's boyfriend on there as well. Joy Reid and Joy Behar, both very angry left-wing conspiracy theorists. Kind of funny they're both named Joy. They always seem so mad. All right, let's stick with MSNBC and now do Rachel Maddow. Her show gets fantastic ratings. It'll be a shame when providers have to dump the network for promoting Russia collusion for years. Here was the big night when Mueller's report was released, and Rachel was so excited.
The report of Special Counsel Robert Mueller has finally been submitted. We've heard it said so many times that it was imminent, that it was done. Maybe it was already done and we didn't know about it. Finally, it's happened. In terms of what that means and what Mueller found, we know only the smallest little bits. This is the start of something, apparently, not the end of something.
She was so giddy. And yeah, it was the start of something, Rachel. It was the start of a huge disappointment for you and the rest of the limousine liberals that absolutely hate Donald Trump. And finally, to Mr. Stelter himself.
Trump's odd behavior with Vladimir Putin is compelling so many people to ask, what does Putin have on Trump? Has Trump been compromised?
Meddling in those conspiracy theories. Now, to be fair, nobody took Russian collusion further than CNN. It completely overwhelmed their coverage, and they never even had any evidence. They just had Adam Schiff swearing that he had seen the evidence, which, of course, we all later found out was a total lie when Bob Mueller released the big report. Of course, Stelter and Darcy have no memory of any of this, and if you honestly ask them, they still believe Russia collusion is true despite the investigation coming up empty. Most liberals do. It's literally identical to the many Trump voters who still believe the 2020 election was stolen. Russia collusion became amplified to protect the ego of Hillary Clinton. She needed an excuse for losing an election the polls all said she would easily win. The media bought into the collusion narrative because they needed an excuse for how Donald Trump won when they hated him so much, why their polls were so terrible, and how they were so completely out of touch to not see 2016 coming. Everybody needed an excuse. Collusion was the perfect thing. They pushed this story as hard as they could nonstop for years, and in the end, it just wasn't true. The difference here is nobody has called for CNN or other networks to be banished from society for pushing this false story for years. We here at Newsmax don't play the cancel culture game. We're adults over here. We can handle the left without screaming and crying for their cancellation. We're big boys.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.